ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome back to the Friday and Saturday morning series on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, teachings of Lord Chaitanya to Rūpa Goswami, Rūpa Śikṣā. We have been doing, we began this series last week and we had 2 sessions on the life of Srila Rūpa Goswami. It is so important to know about the glories of Rūpa Goswami. So before we went into the actual discussion of Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela chapter 19, we just had a brief overlook of the history and life of Srila Rūpa Goswami. And in this context, we discussed various pastimes connected with Srila Rūpa Goswami. And the last pastime we discussed about the manifestation of Govinda Dev, the appearance of Govinda Dev, how Srila Govinda Dev appeared again in Vrindavan only on the mercy, only on the call of Srila Rūpa Goswami. So this was the last part of our discussion in the last class. We were supposed to finish the brief overview in 2 classes, but there were 2 more pastimes which we could not finish in the last class. We will discuss today, and then we will begin with the actual Chaitanya Charitamrita verse by verse discussion. There is another interesting pastime which is well known about how Srila Rūpa Goswami, when he was sitting and meditating on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Sadhu had come to visit him. And when he was just about to enter the Bhajan Kutir of Rūpa Goswami was meditating on the pastime, suddenly laughed. And the sadhu thought, because he was crooked, he was crippled while walking, he was walking in a crooked way. So seeing me, he laughed. This is what he thought, and Rupa Goswami lost that Leela Spurti, Leela Sparan, which was happening. And this pastime is a well-known pastime, but the deeper intricacies of these pastimes are not known. So today we will be discussing this pastime and another last pastime of how Srimati Radharani herself showed mercy to the two Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatana. Now, before I discuss about this pastime, many who are aware of this pastime, that Rupa Goswami was in his bhajan kutir meditating on this pastime, where he was actually seeing in his heart, he was having Divya Darshan of how Srimati Radharani was picking the flowers. Krishna was on a branch and he had lowered the branch, and suddenly he lifted his leg up and the branch moved up, and Srimati Radharani was hanging there and she was telling, "Save Krishna, save Krishna." And suddenly Rupa Goswami, seeing this vision, he had laughed. And at the same time, the sadhu who had come, he saw that Rupa Goswami is laughing on me, and immediately he turned back and went away. So why did Rupa Goswami lose the vision of this Leela which was happening? What was the reason? Anyone knows? What is the reason? Why did Rupa Goswami he lost the Leela Swaran vision? What is the reason? Yes, Parthasarthi Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Yes.
Prabhuji, Vaishnava was offended. So that is why the mercy which he was getting was stopped.
Who offended?
Rupa Goswami.
Okay.
Unknowingly.
Sunita Mataji had raised her hand. Yes, Mataji.
Same answer, Prabhuji.
Okay. Anyone else has any other thoughts about this pastime? Satyavrat Chaitanya Prabhuji. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji.
Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, Rupa Goswami was meditating on the persons of the Radharani and the things, Krishna's. So he saw some humorous incidents. So he laughed. At that time, the lame Brahmin was moving around the place. So the Brahmin thought that Rupa was laughing at his lame condition. So it became offense unknowingly.
Well, the deeper reality is not, it's something different. It was not that Rupa Goswami committed an offense. And try to actually other events, when he laughed, and at the same time Sadhu to find out this. Sorry, I lost the connection before explaining how. So please don't type anything in the chat box, except that if you are not able to hear the ask questions. Yes, Sunita Mataji, you have something to say?
Yes, Prabhuji. Actually, when Rupa Goswami was meditating on the pastimes of Radha and Krishna, in the Leela, he started laughing In the Leela of Radha and Krishna, he was laughing. But the yogi or mm, that I'm not getting that name. I think the
The sadhu who
the
had come to,
sadhu who was bent in all the sides, he thought that Rupa Goswami is laughing at me because of my structure. So he was offended. But actually, Rupa Goswami was laughing in the Leela.
yes, yeah. So let us now go into the deeper understanding of this pastime and try to understand it from a Siddhantic perspective. It is said that there is one self-acclaimed sadhu whose name was Kanja Krishna Das. And he was a self-acclaimed sadhu. A sadhu is not somebody who wears tilak, kantimala, and is having his japa, bead bag. A sadhu is one who has sadhu qualities. So he had heard from many devotees about the glories of Rupa Goswami. Many were speaking about Rupa Goswami. So Kanja Krishna Das, who had heard the praises of Rupa Goswami, thought, let me one day go and take darshan of this sadhu. So many people are speaking about this Goswami and glorifying him as the best of the sadhus. So let me go and meet him. So Kanja Krishna Das was crippled and he walked in a crooked way with the help of a stick. So as he approached the bhajan kutir of Rupa Goswami, he saw that Rupa Goswami was laughing heartily. So heartily he was laughing. And he thought that Rupa Goswami was laughing on me. And he became angry and he returned to his hut. Although Kanja Krishna Das had gone to see a sadhu and become purified, but he became contaminated because he could not understand the nature and position of Srila Rupa Goswami. So it is said that one who, has there is the bee-like mentality and the fly-like mentality. The bee-like mentality will go in the garden and always look for nectar. And the fly-like mentality will always go in the dirty place and look for some dirty things there lying in the corner of a garden. So the flies seek source, the bees seek honey. So because Kanja Krishna Das was not having these sadhu qualities, he could not see and understand the exalted position of Rupa Goswami. He thought Rupa Goswami apparently laughed at me and he was burning in anger in his heart. Although by having a darshan of sadhu, his heart should have cooled, but now his heart was burning. Actually, Rupa Goswami was absorbed in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Now, in order to bestow mercy on Kanja Krishna Das, Srimati Radharani halted the Leela Spurti or the Leela Smaran which was happening. Srimati Radharani actually blocked the flow of the Ashtakaliya Leela Smaran which was happening. Because Kanja Krishna Das had come with some good intention to have a darshan of a Mahabhagat like Rupa Goswami, Srimati Radharani actually blocked the flow of the Ashtakaliya Leela Smaran. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita it is mentioned that if one has committed in Vaishnava Aparadh, it is a great calamity and it can destroy one's spiritual life. So one must first find a remedy for that situation before he can continue his bhajan. Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami and other Vaishnavas, they went to meet Kanja Krishna Das because he had committed an offense. And when one commits an offense, it is only the senior Vaishnavas who can come and correct the Kanishta Adhikari and rectify his mistake. So he had come to take the darshan of Rūpa Goswami, but there was some misunderstanding he had. So this misunderstanding, what Kanja Krishnadas had, was because of his shortcomings. So they went so that they can correct that Vaishnava, let him become aware of his shortcomings, thereby beg forgiveness and become relieved of the offense. So all these Vaishnavas, these exalted souls like Rūpa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, went to the place where Kanja Krishnadas used to stay. And they went and offered pranams. And he said, Sanatana Goswami, because he was very good in relationship with all the Vaishnavas, he spoke, we have come to take your darshan and shelter. First of all, when Kanja Krishna saw these Goswamis coming towards him, he immediately went inside his bhajan kutir, because there was some feeling of, anger and hatred in the heart, the emotion. So immediately first he had gone inside his ashram. So the Goswami stood, we have come to take your shelter and darshan. Kanja Krishna from inside his bhajan kuti replied, I am not a sadhu. I am just suffering for my past activities. I am a lame man and an object of laughter for everyone. So he spoke out what was there in his mind. Then Sanatana Goswami said, oh, the Atma is eternal. It is the servant of Krishna. The soul is neither a man or a woman. And neither it is great or insignificant. So like that, Sanatana Goswami started preaching. So then Kanja Krishnadas inside, he said, oh, you can speak philosophy, big philosophy, but what is your practical behavior? Sanatana Goswami said, oh, one can practice properly. When one has the potency of Bhagavan and one becomes the object of Bhagavan's mercy, one can practice properly. And we are very insignificant. Please forgive us for any mistake we have committed. So Sanatana Goswami, out of his humility, was asking forgiveness from Kanja Krishnadas. So Kanja Krishnadas replied from his bhajan kutir, oh, you are great souls. You are actually associates of Bhagavan. You are like fire, and fire can purify anything. You don't become impure by doing any activities which so-called from a mundane perspective look like contaminating activities. You are like fire. Any contaminated thing you put in fire, fire doesn't get affected. In fact, fire can purify. So you are all associates of Bhagavan. You will not commit a mistake. So Sanatana Goswami said, no, we have committed some mistake. Everyone commits some mistake. You are very great and merciful. Please forgive us and inform us what we have done and how we have offended you. So hearing the humble words of Sanatana Goswami, Kanja Krishnadas now opened up his heart. He was a little hesitant. And then he said, when I went to see Rūpa Goswami, and as I approached him, he began loudly laughing at me. So when Kanja Krishnadas spoke this, Sanatana Goswami asked Rūpa Goswami, is it true, Rūpa? Sanatana asked. So Rūpa Goswami said, I never saw him. I was chanting on my mala, and then I witnessed that Radharani and the gopis, this is the picture here, Radharani and the gopis, they came at Kusum Sarovar. Krishna had arrived before. Radharani caught a branch. Actually, Krishna had lowered that branch so that Radharani could pick the flowers. And Radharani had caught that branch and she was picking flowers to make garland for Krishna. And suddenly Krishna lifted his foot. And then Radharani was hanging on the branch. And then Radharani shouted, save me, Krishna, save me, Krishna, save me. Suddenly the gopis see Srimati Radharani is always absorbed in thinking about Krishna. We are all here around her, but she has called out for Krishna's help. So suddenly Krishna jumped from the branch and came down, and then Srimati Radharani was in the arms of Krishna, and then the Sakhis and the Gopis all laughed. And seeing this humorous pastime, Rūpa Goswami also laughed. So seeing this, I had laughed. So Rūpa Goswami actually narrated the events, what had happened. And then Rūpa Goswami, although being a very exalted Mahabhagavat, the most dearmost servant and devotee of Srimati Radharani, he humbly said, please forgive me for any offense that I have unknowingly committed at your lotus feet. Now, hearing the words of Srila Rūpa Goswami, Kanja Krishnadas admitted and he lamented, oh, the fault is mine. Therefore, my heart has been burning ever since I left your place, and I have not been able to perform my bhajan because I have committed a great offense to a great Vaishnava. So here is a very important point to be noted, that who has committed an offense? So many devotees in the beginning said it is Rūpa Goswami who committed an offense by laughing. That devotee took it as an offense, and Rūpa Goswami unknowingly committed an offense. And because of that, the Leela Smaran stopped. But that is not the case. Because if Rūpa Goswami had committed an offense, his bhajan would have obstructed. And the Leela Smaran was obstructed, or the pastime was halted by Srimati Radharani, because Kanja Krishnadas had committed an offense and his heart was burning. So when we commit an offense to a Vaishnava, actually our heart is burning sometimes because of hatred or envy or jealousy. There is burning sensation in the heart, and that blocks our bhajan. So ever since Kanja Krishnadas had returned back to his bhajan, he was suffering because of the offense he had committed. So his heart was burning all the time, and he was feeling the reactions. And Srimati Radharani blocked the flow of the Leela Smaran, so that ultimately these great souls can bestow mercy on Kanja Krishnadas. This is the first reason. The second reason is that if Kanja Krishnadas goes on to criticize Rūpa Goswami, speaks to other Vaishnavas, he would have committed still greater offense to a Mahabhagavat. So in order to stop that, Srimati Radharani halted the bhajan of Rūpa Goswami. And if she had not halted, he would have committed a great offense to Rūpa Goswami. And that offense is million times more dangerous and would have put Kanja Krishnadas in millions and millions of lives in more karmic reactions of the Vaishnava Aparadha. So that is why sadhus are merciful and Bhagavan is still more merciful. So Srimati Radharani thought, oh, I will go and help. I will go and help all living entities understand their own fault and endeavor to purify themselves and become related to Bhagavan. So that is why the jivas, as long as they don't understand their own faults, they cannot enter into the realm of bhajan. Kanja Krishnadas not understanding the exalted position of Rupa Goswami, because he himself was having this fault finding mentality, seeing the external activity, he committed an aparadh mentally, and that too to a Mahabhagat. And that is why he was suffering, he was burning at heart. And Srimati Radharani, aparadh. Radha means Radha, apa means without Radha. So without Radharani's mercy, one cannot perform bhajan. So Radharani, in order to show mercy, she halted the vision, halted the flow of the Leela, and sent them to the bhajan kutir of Kanja Krishnadas. And when Kanja Krishnadas actually heard the events, he understood his own faults. Srimati Radharani saw that a Kanishta Adhikari had gone to take darshan of a Uttam Adhikari, by which a Kanishta Adhikari would purify. But instead of getting purified by having darshan of a Mahabhagat, he went into a critical mind where he would criticize a Mahabhagat and destroy his own spiritual life. That is the reason Srimati Radharani halted the Leela Smaran of Rupa Goswami. And only when Kanja Krishnadas understood his fault, begged forgiveness from Rupa Goswami, then he actually had the darshan of Rupa Goswami. So real darshan is not the darshan what we see with our eyes. The darshan is when we understand the glories and hear about the glories of the pure Mahabhagavats through other devotees, and through that we have darshan. Otherwise, with external vision, we can always have this fault finding mentality because our senses are imperfect. So this is real darshan. Darshan means to become free from the anarthas and the faults within we have. Drushte swabhava janita vapushcha. Na prakritam iha bhakta janasya pashe. That is what the warning Rupa Goswami is giving also in Upadeshamrita. Drushte swabhava janita. To have vision or to see Vaishnavas, bhakta jana pashe, the Mahabhagavats, based on what? Prakritam, from a material consideration. There are many examples of how similar incidents occurred when great exalted souls also in Chaitanya Charitamrita pastimes saw a Bhagavat from material consideration and committed offense, and then they rectified their own faults. Anyone knows the classic examples from the Chaitanya Charitamrita which are very similar to this pastime, where they had gone to take darshan of a sadhu and they could not understand the sadhu's exalted quality they saw from a material consideration and committed offense. Anyone knows about any other examples? Maya Narasimha Prabhuji, yes.
Prabhuji, Pundrika Vidyanidhi was seen by Damodar Brahmachari. Sir, Gadadhar Brahmachari.
Gadadhar Pandit.
Yeah.
Gadadhar Pandit, when Mukund took, I'll take you to a very exalted Vaishnava. And Gadadhar Pandit was a brahmachari, a simple person, very renounced. And when he went to the palace of Pundrik Vidyanidhi and he saw in what royal dress he had, dressed himself, he had a lot of perfume, he had several servants, surrounding him. Seeing this, why did Mukund get me to a sense gratifier? He told me he'll take me to a sadhu. So just mentally thought, Mukund could understand the mind of Gadadhar Pandit. And immediately he recited the verse from the Bhagavatam and Pundrik Vidyanidhi went into ecstasy. And 10 people also could not hold him. Then Gadadhar Pandit understood. Of course, Gadadhar Pandit is Srimati Radharani himself. And Pundrik Vidyanidhi is none other than Vishwabhanu, the father. So Gadadhar Pandit, in order to become free from this offense, he took initiation. So this is one famous pastime in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. There is another pastime. Anyone knows about it? There's another pastime which is well known. Another pastime is Pradyumna Mishra. Pradyumna Mishra approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand, to hear Krishna Katha. So Pradyumna Mishra was directed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to go and hear from Ramanand Rai. But Ramanand Rai was always busy dressing the Devadasis, bathing the Devadasis so that he can make them ready so that they can go and, sing for Lord Jagannath's pleasure. And Pradyumna Mishra could not understand the exalted position of Ramanand Rai. So he came back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have sent me to Ramanand Rai to hear Krishna Katha, but he is engaged in kind of activities. How can I understand that? So then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu rectified Pradyumna Mishra. The pastime is quite elaborate in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. I'm not going into it. And when he rectified, and once again Pradyumna Mishra went back to Ramanand Rai and then understood the glorious position of Ramanand Rai, he understood his mistake. So this is another classic example from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So here from this pastime, the deeper understanding what we get is it's not that because Rūpa Goswami laughed, he unknowingly committed an offense. And that is why his Leela Smaran stopped. No. It is because Kanja Krishnadas, he could not understand the exalted position of Rūpa Goswami, in what state of consciousness he was in. And he saw from a material consideration, oh, he's laughing externally because my body is crooked. I walk in a crippled way. He took it in the other sense. And Srimati Radharani, in order to bestow mercy on Kanja Krishnadas, she halted the Leela Smaran. That is the reason she halted the Leelas. Otherwise, it would have led to a great offense by Kanja Krishnadas towards Rūpa Goswami. So this is the deeper understanding we get from this pastime. So any questions, any clarifications regarding this? Any questions or clarifications regarding the... Yes, Mataji.
हरे कृष्णा धन्यवाद प्रणाम प्रभु जी
Yes.
हाँ एक्चुअली मेरा क्वेश्चन मतलब लास्ट क्लास रिलेटेड तरह से था कि जैसे श्री रूप गोस्वामी श्री जीव गोस्वामी को मतलब पनिशमेंट देते हैं तो बिकॉज ऑफ ही अंडरस्टैंड मतलब उन्होंने I forgot the name, उन्होंने उनको समझाया कि ये मतलब जो फिलोसफी मतलब जो गलत था तो ये था मुझे कि जो फिलोसफी है मतलब कोई अगर गलत में से कोई फिलोसफी ले रहा है तो हम उनको समझा नहीं सकते क्या ऐसे?
So the question is that Rūpa Goswami, Jiva Goswami corrected the other Vaishnava Acharya as to why Rūpa Goswami had used the word for Bhukti and Mukti as Pishachi.
Yes.
So I had explained in the last class that it is the duty of the disciple to defend his spiritual master with respect to Siddhanta. Any skeptic who has any doubt about why Rūpa Goswami has presented like that, so disciple should glorify spiritual master, and any doubts any skeptics have, those doubts should be destroyed by presenting the Siddhanta. So Jiva Goswami did his work as a disciple. As a spiritual master, Rūpa Goswami, as a spiritual master of Jiva Goswami, punished Jiva Goswami by sending him out of Vrindavan. In fact, he did not go out of Vrindavan, but punished. But that was not a punishment, because by being in separation of Jiva Goswami being separated from Rūpa Goswami, undergoing that punishment, he became more purified. So sometimes the spiritual master can punish the disciple, and this punishment, so-called punishment, leads to purification. It leads to purification and leads to a deeper relationship between the spiritual master and the disciple. And this is what happened. Later on, when Sanatana Goswami got Jiva Goswami back, Rūpa Goswami, actually took deep care of Jiva Goswami, entrusted him with more deeper service in the form of editing his books. And in fact, he himself carved with his own hands the Radha Damodar deity and gave it as a service to Jiva Goswami. So when we are not ready to take up the punishment by the spiritual master, then we don't undergo that purification. So the classic example for this is when Indra committed a great offense to the Brajbasis by trying to kill all the Brajbasis by sending the Samvartak clouds to destroy Braj. He wanted to destroy Braj, the cows, the Gopas, everyone in Vrindavan. And he sent the clouds of destruction towards Braj. And Krishna lifted the Govardhan for 7 days. And all these forces, all the wind gods, with all their energy, they could not even move the blade of grass on Vrindavan. And Indra's pride was so much intoxicated that he could not understand the glories of Krishna. And 7th day he came to his senses and he said, stop now. He withdrew the clouds. And then when everything subsided, Krishna put back the Govardhan and he sent all the Brajvasis back. And there, during those 7 days, all the Brajvasis had loving reciprocation with Krishna in all the different rasas, in Vatsalya, Sakya, Madhurya, all the rasas together. Krishna simultaneously was able to experience below the Govardhan hill. Now, Krishna, along with his friends, was back in Govardhan to play, but Krishna alone went to a certain place near Govardhan hill in order to see was there any damage which has happened to Govardhan. But internally he went because he knew that Indra is coming along with Surabhi. Indra first approached Brahma and said, I've committed this great offense, please protect me. He said, you'll have to, if you go also, your offense cannot be nullified. Better to take the pure devotee Surabhi. And it is a principle that when one offends a great Mahabhagavat, one who is close to that Mahabhagavat, he should go along with him and ask forgiveness, who is very dear to that Mahabhagavat. So similarly, the cows are very dear to Krishna. So Brahmaji requested Indra to take Surabhi. And Indra was so afraid because he had committed such a great offense that he kept Surabhi in the front. And Surabhi, on behalf of Indra, pleaded to Krishna. And first Surabhi did the Abhishek, and then later Indra did the Abhishek from the Akash Ganga waters by Airavan. And in the prayers, if you see in the Bhagavatam, Indra is pleading, with folded hands and saying, please don't punish me. Please don't punish me. So Indra did not want to undergo that punishment for committing that offense. And as a result of this, what happened is because he did not deeply and sincerely repent for his offenses by undergoing the, what is it called, anutap or the tapasya, he did not get purified. And because Indra did not get purified, he again committed an offense. This time when Krishna in Dwarka, along with Satyabhama, went to, Indralok, Indra challenged him. Actually, Sachi had lost her ring and, because of Bhaumasur. After killing Bhaumasur, Krishna went to give this back. And Satyabhama saw the Parijata. She said, I want the Parijat. Everything belongs to Krishna. Krishna just picked up. And Indra again forgot. Oh, this is my Lord. And then Indra challenged for a battle. So Indra again committed an offense because he did not go through that penance and tapasya, whereby he became purified from the offenses. So here is the different case where one doesn't go through that penance and tapasya to get purified. Whereas Jiva Goswami accepted the punishment which Rūpa Goswami so-called gave punishment. That punishment purified more and brought him deeper and closer to Rūpa Goswami. Indra did not want to undergo punishment, so his anutap was not complete. He did not get fully purified, and the result was he again committed an offense. So this is a deeper understanding what we should have. Okay, so we will continue to the last pastime. The last pastime here is Srimati Radharani herself. Now the Bhajan Kutir of Rūpa Goswami was Ter Kadam. And Srila Sanatana Goswami and Rūpa Goswami used to meet at Ter Kadam. And they would have wonderful discussions. Every day, Srimati Radharani goes from Yavat to Nandagram. Yavat is her mother-in-law, Kutila and Jatila. And that's the place where she stays. So from Yavat to Nandagram, every day Srimati Radharani goes with her Sakhis and Manjaris in order to cook for Krishna. And Srimati Radharani is very young and delicate, and she is the Swarupa Shakti of the Lord. And she is the source of all energy. So she herself carries very, very heavy pots of milk, yogurt, and other ingredients in order to cook for Krishna. She completes her cooking pastimes and returns back to Yavat, and then she goes to worship the sun god. And the service of especially Rūpa Goswami and the Manjaris, who is Rūpa Manjari, and the Goswamis, who are other Manjaris, they decorate this pathway where Srimati Radharani goes from Yavat to Nandagram to cook for Krishna. And in between Yavat and Nandagram is Ter Kadam. And this is the Bhajan Stali of Srila Rūpa Goswami. Sanatana Goswami used to stay at Pavan Sarovar. And sometimes he used to go and meet Rūpa Goswami. And from morning to evening, they used to drink the nectar of Krishna Katha. They used to sometimes not even feel any hunger or thirst. And they would just be absorbed in the compositions what Rūpa Goswami was doing. Rūpa Goswami, whatever he used to compose, his new books, he used to discuss with Sanatana Goswami, and they used to absorb morning till evening in it without any food or water. Such was their absorption. So one afternoon, it so happened that Rūpa and Sanatana were absorbed in Harikatha, and a young girl approached. Oh Baba, today you did not do Madhikari. So my mother has sent some milk. Please drink it. So this young girl spoke like this, but the two Goswamis were so much absorbed in discussing Harikatha, they did not even pay any notice. That was their absorption. So the girl said, Baba, can I boil the milk for you? And I will make some shira, some kheer for you. you can offer some bhoga, you can have some, and you can offer it to the other Baba, Bada Baba. So she spoke this. She did not get any response because both Rūpa and Sanatan were deeply absorbed in Harikatha. So Srimati Radharani herself picked up some cow dung cakes, lit a fire, and she cooked kheer. And afterwards she said, "Oh Baba, I have finished cooking. Offer this and take yourself. And you can offer to the Bada Baba. I must go now. My mother is calling." She said like this and she left. In the evening, this happened in the afternoon. In the evening, Rūpa and Sanatan were still absorbed in Katha. And then they realized, oh, Rūpa Goswami said, "Sanatan, I have not offered you. You have not eaten anything all day. What can I give for you? Oh, I have not done even Madhukari today to give you something." Then suddenly Rūpa Goswami saw, oh, there is a pot of kheer. And then he realized, oh, this young girl had come and she had made this kheer. So Rūpa Goswami did not have any pots to offer also the kheer. So he took some lotus leaves, and in the lotus leaf he placed the hot kheer and he offered this kheer to the deities. And later on, both Rūpa and Sanatan, after the offering, honored this prasadam. So because this kheer was made with pure love by Srimati Radharani, and this was done in pure consciousness, it was actually the Shakti of Srimati Radharani in it. Moment both Rūpa and Sanatan honored the Mahaprasad, they went into deep ecstasy. Such was the ecstasy that they realized, oh, this is not ordinary prasad. This is cooked by Srimati Radharani herself. So, when our heart is soft and it is filled with a pure consciousness to please the beloved, and in this kind of a consciousness we cook, then the prasad is potent. But when we cook out of sense of duty, like karmis do, then that is not potent. So Srimati Radharani had cooked this kheer, and the potency they were able to feel. So immediately Sanatan Goswami understood that this kheer is being cooked by their own Swamini. And he questioned Rūpa, "Did you pray for anything while we were speaking?" So then Sanatan Goswami actually admitted, "I was thinking that I had nothing to offer you as prasad." And then Sanatan Goswami said, "Oh, alas, what you have done." Sanatan said, "Because you had this desire that you wanted to offer something to me, our Swamini herself came and cooked for us. Rūpa, you made Kishori work. You didn't do Madhukari. Therefore, Kishori cooked for us. This is not proper." Rūpa Goswami was in tears. He said, "I didn't have the time to do Madhukari because I was relishing Krishna Katha. But Srimati Radharani herself came and made everything ready." Now, why did Srimati Radharani come and cook? There are two reasons. One, when one has a pure desire, Rūpa Goswami had a pure desire to offer something to Sanatana Goswami. Secondly, the second reason is that Rūpa and Sanatan were absorbed in Harikatha. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye jana paripasate tesham nitya abhiyuktanam yogakshema vahamyam. So because they were so much absorbed in Harikatha, they got the mercy in the form of Srimati Radharani herself supplying what was required for Rupa Goswami or to nourish them. So when we are absorbed in such bhajan, that time Krishna takes care of everything. So here is a very wonderful and beautiful pastime of how Srimati Radharani herself cooked for the pleasure of the two Goswamis, because it was the desire of Rupa Goswami. Now, we all know that Srila Prabhupada, after he took sannyas, mostly after the Vanaprastha days from 1959 to 1966, before he left America, was at Sri Radha Damodar temple, where both the bhajan, kuti, and the samadhi of Srila Rupa Goswami is there. And especially in his kitchen, Prabhupada's kitchen, where Prabhupada is to make his own prasad, cook it and offer it to the deities and honor it. From the window, he could always have the darshan of the bhajan kutir of Srila Rupa Goswami. In fact, Srila Prabhupada was so strict in his bhajan, in his sadhana, when he was at Sri Radha Damodar, that he never honored the Mahaprasad of Radha Damodar, because that is bhoga, what is offered. And it later on comes at prasad. Very opulent bhoga is offered to Radha Damodar, so he never honored it, Srila Prabhupada. He used to either cook himself in his kitchen, or he used to go out and do madhukari, get some roti and milk. But never during those years, Prabhupada honored the Mahaprasad of Radha Damodar. That was the consciousness of Rūpa. And it is said that all the 6 Goswamis, and especially Rupa Goswami, appeared in a divine vision to Srila Prabhupada and blessed him to go to America to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as ordered by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So this is the picture here, and this is a well-known pastime, which is quite authentic, and it is a well-known pastime of how Rupa Goswami blessed our founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Now, this is the last part of the life and history of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami composed many authentic Vaishnava literatures. Among them, these are the famous Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, Mathura Mahatmya, Navdeep Suti, Sri Danakeli Kaumudi, the Danakeli pastimes, the toll tax collecting pastimes, humorous pastimes which are karmas in the Danakeli, the Govinda Viruddhavali, Sri Laghu Bhagavatamrit, Lalit Madhav, Nikunja Rahasya Stava, Sri Padyavali. It's an anthology of prayers. The many prayers are there, and the many ashtakams are also there. Shri Shri Krishna Janmatiti Vidhi, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Ganodesha Dipika, Shri Stavamala, Shri Ujjvala Neelmani, Shri Vidagdha Madhava. Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava are 2 dramas. Vidagdha Madhava and Lalit Madhava. Lalit Madhava, I think, is pastimes of Dwarka, and Vidagdha Madhava is pastimes of Vrindavan, Krishna does. The Uddhav Sandesh and Vidagdha Madhava, both are there here. So these are some of the major works of Rupa Goswami. There are many other also compositions Rupa Goswami did, like Nataka Chandrika and all, which I have not mentioned here. But among all these books Rupa Goswami composed, the most important for us is Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. We don't have much qualification to study these other books because it requires a lot of Sanskrit and grammar knowledge. But for us, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu and Upadesh Amrit, which are given by Srila Prabhupada, are most important. Even Ujjvala Mani, which deals with Madhurya Ras, more in particular, it is actually Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu establishes the highest rasa as Madhurya Ras, and that Madhurya Ras is further elaborated in Ujjvala Neelmani. Even we don't have the adhikar to study Ujjwal Mani. Those who are exalted Mahabhagavats, Uttam Adhikaris, situated in Bhava and Prema, they can study. But for sadhakas, it is never recommended. For us, the Bhakti literatures are Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Upadeshamrit. Now here, if you see in the list, there is no mention of the book Upadeshamrit. So where does Upadeshamrit come? Where does it fall? Anyone knows? Where is Upadeshamrit in the list? Where does Upadeshamrit fall? We all study Upadeshamrit. So why Upadeshamrit is not mentioned in the list here? Anyone knows? Actually, Stavamala, Stava means glorification. Mala means a composition or a garland. So within Stavamala, there are many compositions, or even many ashtakas are there in Stavamala. And there is one glorification in the form of Upadeshamrit. So Upadeshamrit falls in Stavamala. In Stavamala, there are these verses of Upadeshamrit. Just like within the Mahabharata is the Bhagavad Gita. And within the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Uddhav Gita. Uddhav Gita is like a separate book. So within the Stavamala is Sri Upadesh Amrit. So for us, these two books are most important of Rūpa Goswami. So now we begin with the overview of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 19. Today we will just begin with the overview. From tomorrow onwards, we will have the verse by verse discussion of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now this is a brief overview of the entire chapter 19. Chapter 19 has 257 verses. We will be going verse by verse of the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 19. In this whole chapter 19, if you see, Śikṣā is very small. Just from verses 135 to 237 is Śikṣā. So there are many other pastimes which are mentioned, which does not constitute Śikṣā. Śikṣā actually is only from here. But we will discuss all these verses in the flow of the chapter 19 because they have to do something deeper with Śikṣā. And there are many lessons also we should learn. Especially Sri Vallabha Bhatt's meeting with Lord Chaitanya visiting the home of Vallabha Bhatt, Adila Gram, and then Mahaprabhu bestowing mercy to Rūpa and Sanatan. After bestowing the mercy, then there is the Śikṣā. So there is a flow of thought within this chapter. So that is why we will not just discuss Śikṣā, which is 135 to 237 verses. We will go from verse 1 onwards. There is the whole preparation to go to Śikṣā. And what are the lessons which we can understand from this flow is what we will be discussing in our verse-to-verse discussion. So just let me give an overview now. Verses 1 to 12, Rūpa Goswami's preparation to meet Lord Chaitanya. How Rūpa Goswami prepares to go and meet Lord Chaitanya. Rūpa Goswami first of all gives his wealth, 50% to the Brahmanas, 25% to his family people, and 25% he keeps for personal emergencies. He sends 2 people to Puri to find out when Lord Chaitanya is going to go to Vrindavan. He is preparing. And then Rūpa Goswami leaves. But Sanatana Goswami stays back. And the Nawab, he doesn't go to his work and he just sits at home and discusses Bhagavatam with the Brahmanas. So the Nawab then comes to the house of Sanatana, he arrests him. So how the Nawab arrests Sanatana Goswami is there from 13 to 30. And Rūpa Goswami has left. So Rūpa and Anupanam meet Lord Chaitanya at Prayag. And at Prayag, there are 2 more incidents before Śikṣā happens. Vallabha Bhatt also meets. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at Prayag. And that meeting and conversation and discussion is there, which happened. And later on, although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed mercy on Vallabha, but the real mercy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestows on Rūpa and Sanatana, that we will understand when we go through these verses. So Vallabha Bhatta meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is from 61 to 76. Vallabha visits Mahaprabhu and praises Rūpa and Sanatana, quoting scriptures. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appreciated him. Then Vallabha but invites Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Adilagram for lunch. Then within that is, when he is at Adilagram, Lord Chaitanya's dealings with Raghupati Upadhyaya, and then he comes back to Prayag. After he comes back to Prayag, Lord Chaitanya bestows his mercy to Rūpa and Sanatana. The qualities of Rūpa and Sanatana are mentioned, and then first Rūpa Goswami empowers Shakti Sancharila, empowers Rūpa Goswami, and then he begins the teachings. So the teachings are from 135. Śikṣā is actually 135 to 237. The whole process of devotional service is there. I will not go into this overview. What is the rarity of Krishna Bhakti? The process of cultivating Krishna Bhakti, that is the growth of the Bhakti Lata. Then what is Shuddha Bhakti? Then there are two categories of attachment, Rati. Then there are 5 kinds of rasas. And then after giving this synopsis of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rūpa Goswami instructs him to expand the science of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Then Lord Chaitanya leaves Prayag to go to Varanasi. Rūpa Goswami wants to go with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Varanasi, but the Lord forbids him and he tells him to proceed towards Vrindavan. And then in Varanasi, Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra serve the Lord. So that is the last part. So we will go into now the verse by verse discussion from the next class. So I will stop here, and tomorrow we will begin the verse to verse discussion on chapter 19 of Madhya Leela. Any questions, any clarifications anyone has? Okay, so we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Srila Rūpa Goswami Pad ki Jai.